Mama, why did you do this to me? You killed me. You buried me. Now I'm alone. Once upon a time, in a peaceful village of Itiko, a place where the sun rose lazily over the hills, casting a golden glow over the thatched huts and farmlands. The villagers were mostly farmers and fishermen, working the land and water to provide for their families. In this village lived a very beautiful family. Mama Tuni, Papa Tuni, and their delightful 4 years daughter Tuni. Little Tunu was a bright and curious child with a joyful spirit that brought comfort to everyone around her. She had big sparkling eyes that mirrored the beauty of the clear river. Her laughter echoed like music through the village. Every morning as sun rose, Tuni would wake up, eagerly help her father prepare for his fishing trip. She loved accompanying her father to the river bank where they would cast their net into the water. Tuni would giggle and splash around as her father taught her how to identify different fish. "Look, Papa, that one is a catfish," she would shout, her eyes wide with excitement. At times, after a long day of fishing, Papa Tuni will return home, his face sparkled with sweat, but his spirit is high. Tuni will run to him, her arms open wide for a big hug. "Papa, did you catch a big fish today?" she would ask, bouncing on her toes. He would respond, "Yes, my little girl, I caught enough fish for dinner tonight." Tuni would help him arrange the freshly caught fish, her tiny fingers skillfully sorting them out as she droned her favorite song. Tuni enjoyed spending time with her mother. She would help her mother in the kitchen, stirring pots of delicious soup while asking endless questions about the world around her. "Mama, why do we have to cook with fire? Can't we use magic instead?" Her mother would smile. "Oh, my darling, cooking with fire is a magic of its own," she would say, bending down to kiss Tuni's forehead. Tuni was a star at her village school. She loved to learn about animals and stars. Her teachers often praised her intelligence. During break time, Tuni would gather her friends and teach them games she learned from her father. Despite the joy Tuni brought, Mama Tuni's heart was heavy with discontent. Although she had married Papa Tuni because all her friends have married, she does not want to be left behind. She often criticized Papa Tuni, believing he looks dirty. Each time she looked at him, all she saw were the fish scales and the smell of river. She continued to grow increasingly resentful of her husband's profession. She began to neglect her family duties, expressing little interest in Papa Tuni's life as a fisherman. When he lovingly suggested that they work together to improve their life, she would reply, "Why should I care about your dirty fish? I want more than this life." She longed for a business of her own, dreaming of wealth and admiration, and soon she decided to open a beer parlor. Papa Tuni, wanting to support her dreams, gathered his savings and handed them over to her. As soon as Mama Tuni opened the beer parlor, her transformation began. Her clothing changed. She began dressing in ways that made her look like a young girl trying to attract attention. She started spending long hours at her shop, neglecting her daughter and their home. One day, Papa Tuni decided to visit the beer parlor to see how Mama Tuni was doing. As he entered, he noticed her laughing and chatting with men, a sight that filled his heart with sadness. The moment Mama Tuni spotted him, her face soared. "Why are you here?" folding her arms. "Don't you have fish to catch? Your dirty clothes will scare away my customers." Tuni, who had been watching, couldn't understand why her mother was so harsh. "Mama, why are you being mean to Papa? He works hard for us." Mama Tuni only frowned at her. "Be quiet, Tuni, you don't know anything." As Tuni watched her parents argue, she felt torn between them. She could see how unhappy her mother was. Tuni would often try to cheer her up with funny stories about her day at school, hoping to bring back the smile that used to grace her mother's face. But her mother never changed. She continued with her reckless life, ignoring her husband and daughter. Tuni missed her mother's comfort and began to feel neglected. She would sit at the table, waiting for her mother to return home. But most nights, Mama Tuni would stumble in late with smell of alcohol and laughter. One day, while Papa Tuni was selling his fish in the village market, a lady named Ene approached him to buy fish. Ene must have heard the troubles he faced at home. She encouraged him in his efforts and offered to assist. The next day, Ene visited Papa Tuni's home. As soon as Mama Tuni saw her, she started shouting at Papa Tuni, claiming that he wanted to replace her with another woman. Papa Tuni calmly replied, "You left this family a long time ago, Mama Tuni. Ene is only here to help, and I will not allow you destroy what is left of our family." Tuni, in the other hand, quickly grew fond of Ene. Ene would braid her hair, help her with schoolwork, and walk her to school every day. Mama Tuni, who watched from a distance, could no longer stand the sight of her daughter being close to another woman. Unable to control her jealousy, she decided to act in her mind. The only way to reclaim her place in the family was to get rid of Ene and Tuni. She knew that without Tuni, Ene's bond with Papa Tuni would weaken. Jealousy consumed her. Every time she saw Ene and Tuni laughing together or walking hand in hand to the market, her anger continued to increase. She felt that her own daughter had betrayed her by choosing another woman over her. So she devised a plan to take her daughter away, believing that if she removed Tuni from their life, she could cause Papa Tuni and Ene to fall apart. So one afternoon, while Ene was at the market and Papa Tuni was out fishing, Mama Tuni went to Tuni's school. She smiled sweetly at the school authorities, explaining that she came to pick up her daughter early. They believed her as she was still Tuni's biological mother and allowed her to take Tuni. Tuni was surprised to see her mother as she hasn't spent much time with her recently. "Mama, are we going home?" Tuni asked. Her mother forced a smile. "Yes, my dear, we are going somewhere special." Mama Tuni led her daughter deep into the forest, far away from the village. Tuni, trusting her mother, followed without question. As they walked further into the wood, Tuni began to feel uneasy. "Mama, why are we here? I want to go home." Mama Tuni's heart raced with mixture of anger and satisfaction. She ignored her daughter's pleas and led her to a hidden place. Under the cover of trees, she dug a hole. Tuni, too young to understand what was happening, stood silently as her mother walked. She still trusted her mother even in this final moment. When the hole was ready, Mama Tuni grabbed Tuni's small body and buried her alive. She stood over there, breathing heavily. When Ene returned home from the market and couldn't find Tuni, she assumed the little girl was with her friends or father. When Papa Tuni finally came back home from the riverbank, tired from a long day of fishing, Ene rushed to him in panic. "Tuni hasn't come back. I can't find her anywhere," she cried. Papa Tuni's face changed. "What do you mean? She hasn't come back. She should be at school." Fear gripped Papa Tuni's heart as he hurried to the school. When he arrived, the school staff told him that Mama Tuni had picked her up earlier in the day. This is the moment Papa Tuni's heart sank. He knew something was wrong. So he rushed to Mama Tuni's beer parlor, but she wasn't there. Panic spread throughout the village as word got around that Tuni was missing. Villagers joined in the search, combining the streets and surrounding areas, but there was no sign of the little girl. Days passed and still there was no trace of Tuni. Papa Tuni was devastated. He barely slept, staying up late into the night, hoping Tuni would come running through the door at any moment. He couldn't understand why Mama Tuni hadn't come forward to explain where their daughter was. She had simply vanished. Soon Mama Tuni resurfaced after 3 days, returning to the village with a cold, indifferent expression. When Papa Tuni confronted her, demanding to know where their daughter was, Mama Tuni codedly replied, "I brought her home and I haven't seen her since. Maybe your new wife knows where she is." Her words sent a wave of shock through the village. Mama Tuni began spreading rumors, accusing Ene of being responsible for Tuni's disappearance. "She wants to take over my family," she told anyone who would listen. Ene was heartbroken by the false accusation. She had come to love Tuni as her own child and would not harm her. But Mama Tuni's lie began to plant seeds of doubt in the mind of some villagers. Soon, whispers filled the air, with some wondering if Ene had done something terrible to win Papa Tuni's heart. Despite the accusation, Papa Tuni never blinked in his support for Ene. "She would never hurt Tuni," he told everyone. "It's Mama Tuni who is hiding something." Just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse for Mama Tuni, the torment began. Late at night, when the village was quiet, Mama Tuni started hearing the soft, haunting voice of her daughter. "Mama, why did you do this to me? Why did you leave me? At first, she thought it was just her imagination, but the voice grew louder and more persistent each night. It followed her wherever she went, at home, in the beer parlor, even in her dreams. Mama Tuni would wake up drenched in sweat, the voice still ringing in her ears. Mama, I am cold. It's dark here. Why did you leave me alone? Mama Tuni tried to shake off the guilt and fear, but the voice wouldn't let her. It was as if Tuni's spirit was haunting her, refusing to be silenced. She became restless, barely sleeping, and started avoiding the beer parlor entirely. Her torment didn't stop at the voice. Every night, she would see shadows moving in the corners of her room, taking the shape of her daughter. Sometimes, she would feel small cold hands brushing against her skin as though Tuni was trying to reach out to her from the other side. One night, Mama Tuni woke up screaming, convinced that Tuni's ghost was standing at the foot of her bed, staring at her with sad, accusing eyes. You killed me, Mama, the ghost whispered. You buried me, and now I'm alone. Mama Tuni's health began to get worse. She stopped eating and her once vibrant beauty faded. The villagers noticed the change in her, but she refused to tell anyone what was happening. One evening, while Papa Tuni was discussing with the village elders about Tuni's disappearance, an old woman named Madame Boson, known for her wisdom and spiritual insight, approached them. She had been watching the event unfold from a distance and had a feeling that Mama Tuni was hiding something. I have seen things in my dreams. The child spirit is restless. She seeks justice, but she cannot find peace. I believe your wife knows more about your daughter's disappearance. The spirits do not lie. On getting home, Papa Tuni confronted Mama Tuni one final time. Where is Tuni? He demanded. Tell me the truth. I know you took her from the school. Where did you take her? Mama Tuni, weakened by the guilt and the torment she had been experiencing, broke down in tears. She couldn't hold the secret any longer. I buried her. I took her to the forest and buried her because I couldn't stand seeing her with any I didn't mean to. Papa Tuni was overcome with shock and grief. He collapsed to the ground, his heart shattered. The village was offended by her actions and the elders decided that she must be punished for the crime she had committed against her own child. But before they could pass the judgment, the haunting became unbearable for Mama Tuni. That night, as she lay in bed, the spirit of Tuni appeared once again, clearer than ever. Her face filled with sorrow. Mama, it's time for you to pay for what you did. Mama Tuni screamed, begging for forgiveness, but the spirit of her daughter reached out, touching her mother's forehead with ice fingers. In that moment, Mama Tuni felt a cold wave of pain wash over her body, and within seconds, she was dead.